We're back from an exciting weekend of basketball. Patrick and I are going to talk Magic Cavs Game 7, Timberwolves Nuggets Game 1. Some trends we've noticed in the playoffs and kind of our rapid fire and everything that we've missed since the last episode of Foul Trouble. It's been like 4 years, it feels like, since the last episode. Multiple teams are gone. Coaches are fired.
It moves so quickly at this point in the NBA season. Just like 3 days time. Like you said, 3 teams will be eliminated. We think like 4 different superstars have ascended into greatness. Where do you want to start?
Well, we got to get into foul trouble. All right. Where do we start? I think we should start with Magic Cavs Game 7.
Okay. Best 2 words in sports.
Yeah. So, I mean, we were joking about this, but like people are like, the series doesn't start till a road team won. So the road team never won. Series never started. I mean, it just felt like a home court series because it kind of just felt like, the teams at home shot the ball better. And I don't really want to boil the series down to that, but like, it's kind of what it came down to. Like Franz Wagner was like, 2 of 15, 3 of 15?
1 of 15.
1 of 15. Jalen Suggs also did not shoot the ball well.
2 of 13.
Yeah, I mean, that was just kind of the story of the series, was like Mitchell and Paulo were pretty reliable in almost all the games, but the supporting cast were kind of wishy-washy for a lot of this. I mean, I think we saw definitively like kind of what we saw in the regular season with the Cavs. They're better with the one big. And it's weird because both their bigs are so good that it's almost like it doesn't matter which of the bigs it is. But I think Mobley's definitely shown this crazy defensive upside for Cleveland that you got to love.
Yeah, I couldn't help but like I feel like every time I watch a Cavs game, the ESPN broadcast or the TNT broadcast is always talking about how like Evan Mobley has to develop this reliable jumper because he plays next to another big man, and that's the only way he's going to succeed. Like, or maybe the Cavs could just make him their center. Like,
yeah,
it's so obvious at this point.
You know what's weird about this Cavs team? I don't know if it's just like the way I feel, but it kind of feels like from the day they traded for Donovan Mitchell, I feel like every single Cavs discussion ever, like whether it's a live game or us talking about them on the podcast, because we've definitely done this too, so I don't want to say we haven't done this, but it's just, I feel like every time the Donovan Mitchell Cavs are ever discussed, it's like, they got to figure out this 2 bigs thing, man. They got to figure out a trade. Or it's like right when they made the Donovan Mitchell trade, it was like, well, that team's not going to win the finals, so why'd they even do it? I feel like, I don't know, I feel like this team gets a lot more scrutiny for like the level and type of team it is than like almost any other equivalent type team. Do you feel the same way or no?
Yeah, they definitely get a lot of
like
heat for their roster construction, but I feel like it shows up. You've got 4 dudes who are all supposed to be like all-star, sub-all-star level, and it's one thing to say they don't fit super well around each other. Like, I don't know. There's multiple teams where you look at them and they don't fit well next to each other, but these guys, it shows. Like, Darius Garland was not, or at least I think throughout this playoff run and the last playoff run, he had a couple games where I think he won the game for them in the last playoff run against the Knicks. But this series, Darius Garland kind of sucked. Like, yeah, he's not.
But he's had a very topsy-turvy season the whole year.
It's true. But you know what? He's been healthy for a while. He was healthy in this series, and like 15 points, 5 assists. Like, that's not enough. I think this series played out the way we kind of thought it would, just because of the
shakiness of the role players on both sides, yeah.
And the shakiness of the offense, especially in Orlando. But if I'm a Cavs fan, I know you won Game 7, but like going down 18 points early in the second quarter, being down 10 points at halftime, and like it basically took the Magic to have a bad shooting performance, even for the Magic, for the Cavs to pull this one out. I am not feeling good about what I saw from the Cavs. And I think it sustained of like, we saw the really bad vibes going into the series, them throwing the last game of the season, the Magic having really great vibes. And I think this got further than it should have when you consider what the talent level is in Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because what did you pick pre-series? I did pick Cavs in 7, but to be fair,
I picked Cavs in 6.
Okay, but I did pick Cavs in 7 with the caveat of like, oh, it's my throwaway pick. I kind of feel like whatever team wins is probably going to win in 5. I think that's what I actually said. I mean, Cleveland did win in 7, but I don't know. I think one thing For Cleveland, I guess the reason I'm not as hard on them, like when I zoom out, is I kind of feel like this team construction they have right now is like the stepping stone to what they inevitably want to be. And unfortunately for them, it feels like that's not going to be with Donovan Mitchell, the guy who's dropped 50 points in this series, the guy who won them the game. I mean, I think that's the thing I like the least about Cleveland is like, I feel like they're in a good stepping stone position to take a leap to become a really good team. My worry is like Mitchell's clearly the best player on the team.
Yeah. And he seems like clearly the person that has like 1 foot out the door, which is scary from a Cleveland standpoint. Because like, if this is who Darius Garland is, if the Jared Allen and Evan Mobley fit is what it is, which I feel like it pretty much is, if you take Donovan Mitchell out of this situation, like, what are you realistically getting back that is going to keep you even at this level of a team, which I think is sub-contender?
They'd have to. Well, so they traded to get Mitchell, Larry Markkinen, Ochai Agbaji. Sorry, I can't pronounce it.
Agbaji.
Colin Sexton, 3 first-round picks and 2 swaps. So, like, at the time, none of us knew Markkinen was going to take the leap he did. But even with that leap, I mean, Mitchell's just a straight-up way better player than Markkinen is, even still. But I mean, if Cleveland got a haul like that and maybe one of those 3 guys that they end up trading for can take a leap like that, or maybe theirs is a little bit more concentrated and do a better forward off rip, I mean, I think they can get value. I guess my worry is like we haven't seen the Cavs make the playoffs without LeBron James or Donovan Mitchell since the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little, I think that's the thing though, because we kind of had this discussion all year. It's like this whole notion that like Mitchell doesn't make anyone on the Cavs better. And I've always kind of been like, what is the rest of the Cavs doing to make Mitchell better, Mitchell wanting to stay? Because, like, Mitchell just bailed them out. Like, Mitchell's kind of the guy who came in, brought them to the playoffs twice. Like, they had that stretch this year where Garland was hurt, Allen was playing really bad to start the year, and Mitchell's kind of been, like, the steadying force for this team all year. So, like, I think there's a chance this team could take a huge step back, to your point, without Donovan Mitchell. Like, I think his contributions to what this team is are kind of underrated.
Is it definitely not that, though? Like what you were saying, like Mitchell, I think Mitchell most likely is additive to every team that he's been a part of. But you think about those Utah teams, once you got to the playoffs, nobody played above their ability once they got to the playoffs with those Donovan Mitchell teams. And I think you can say the exact same thing about this Cavs team. Like, we've never seen Darius Garland really be able to consistently contribute in that way in the playoffs. We've never really seen it from Jared Allen. I guess we kind of saw Evan Mobley play better than he has. It was a really tough series for Evan Mobley, and I think he performed well. But, I mean, Paolo Banchero did also kind of eat, you know.
Paolo was awesome this series.
I think, like, I don't know. It's just, I think, if I'm the Cavs, I'm going to Donovan Mitchell. I'm like, hey, man, Garland, we can trade. Allen, we can trade. Mobley, we can trade. Anything you want us to do, we will do our best to add in what you want around you. But without him, they're nothing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I get it's kind of, I don't know how much more time I want to spend on the Cavs, but I guess a quick thought experiment without putting any real thought into value or anything is some sort of construction where you can insulate Mitchell and Mobley with some of the Nets' rangy defensive stars.
Yeah.
And then let the Nets kind of start over with their version of a, like Allen Garland type duo, which is a great place to restart for the Nets. And it's a great bolster for the Cavs, but that's for the offseason.
That is for the offseason. And the Cavs are going to be playing another series.
Yeah, so I guess on the Magic side, I think going forward, you got to be a little concerned about the Franz-Paolo pairing.
Definitely. I mean, I think it's a tough game to end on for the Franz experience because he did win them a game in this playoffs. He was relatively good, I would say. But you do have to start paying him right now, I believe, Franz. Or I guess you've got a year before you have to start paying him real money.
He shot 28% from 3 from the regular season.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit better in the playoffs.
I don't know if after that last game that's the case.
But I hear you. Yeah.
Okay, so in the playoffs, oh no. He shot 28.5. He was 0.4% better in the playoffs. So I think that's my worry with Franz is I feel like him and Paulo, if we're going to talk about this with trends, have a little redundancy to their games.
Yeah. It's like the same exact thing, except Paolo is bigger and stronger and a better finisher at the rim.
Yeah, and I kind of like, I guess for me, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I feel like there's been a lot of chatter about like if Paul George is going to leave, it's going to be for Philly or Orlando. And like, I kind of hate this fit for Paul George.
Yeah, I mean, it's not
feels
ideal.
Like playing down in a watered down Clippers team.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a gamble at like a younger Clippers team, but it does feel kind of the same.
Yeah, like, you and a bunch of other forwards who are all the same size. I mean, I think one thing for the Magic, what's really encouraging is even if Paulo's jump shot isn't there yet, like, I love that he's willing to take and, a lot of times, especially in Game 6, make these huge shots for a team that, like, has nothing going. So I think that's why it's kind of almost hard to evaluate Paulo. Like, in a weird way, it's like it's easy to be like, wow, Paulo did so good in this series. He did X, Y, and Z. And it's almost difficult to criticize him in this series for anything because it's like they had nothing without him.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he's a 21-year-old guy who, out of all of the teams in the first round, Paolo has like top 5 usage, so he has the ball in his hands a ton. I don't think turnovers were really that big of a problem for him, which that's the kind of thing that will only get better with age. I have a stat, a little cherry pick stat, which is what I would be holding on to if I'm a Magic fan going forward. So Paolo and Franz each averaged at least 21 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists over this series. That's only been done by teammates 5 other times. Elgin Baylor and Jerry West did it twice. Wilt Chamberlain and Hal Greer did it once. LeBron and D Wade did it one time in 11. Paul George and Kawhi did it once, and Giannis and Chris Middleton did it once. So like that's really rarefied air for like big ball handling wings. And I think because they're so reliable with having the ball in their hands, even in playoff settings, you can kind of get creative with how you build out your team around them. Like the guy I honestly think would be perfect for this core is Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
A guy that like he can have the ball in his hands a lot, but he's not necessarily a true point guard, but you don't really need that when you have Paolo and you want the ball in his hand as much as you do. I think probably there is place for a more true point guard on this roster, but maybe as like a super sixth man, I think Chris Paul would be.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Chris Paul is a perfect fit for this team. Yeah, no, I mean, if you're a Magic fan, I think you just have to be thrilled that Paulo has shown that, like, I think he's going to give the Magic a pretty high floor going forward, where, like, I don't see this team missing the playoffs for a long time while he's on the roster, especially in a weaker East. And I think that's nice because it's going to let the Magic shuffle the team around him without having to worry about dipping too much. And I mean, yeah, I mean, the upside's crazy. I feel like it really just comes down to this jump shot because, like, coming into this series, I think there's that worry that it's like, well, if his jumper's not falling, it kind of plays right into the Cavs playing the too big thing and you don't kill them there. But, when he's hitting his jumper at a respectable rate with such a high usage, it like totally changes the dynamic of like where this team could go going forward.
And the book on this team was easy this year. Like they're a year ahead of schedule. Their spacing is as bad as it's gonna be in the Paolo Banchero era. He's only in his second year. Once you get a little like playable spacing on this floor, Paolo's like getting to the rim is going to be so much easier and it's going to be so much more effective. And he's already dropping 38 points in a closeout game. I mean, I think great things are ahead for this Orlando Magic core. And there's so many different ways that they can go because they're still cheap.
Yeah. All right. Should we hit Minnesota, Denver?
Let's go to Minnesota, Denver.
Max, what's up? How are we feeling? Minnesota's up 1.
Dude, it's crazy. Honestly, I'm sad because I didn't get to watch the full game. But from what I did see, obviously, it was just Anthony Edwards saying, "Hey guys, I'm here. I'm legit." If he keeps doing this, like
yeah, I mean,
if he keeps doing this,
I'm right here with you, and I want to say, I think Ant is the next in the lineage, and I'm ready to say this in a way that I wasn't ready to say this, especially last season.
Yeah.
But I think he's taking up that mantle of the like super two guard that can do everything on both sides of the ball in a way that we really haven't seen it. I feel like in recent years when there've been guys that it's like, oh, that guy reminds me of Jordan. That guy reminds me of Kobe. It was like Kawhi reminded us of old man Jordan when he was going on his run in Toronto. I think Devin Booker often reminds us of a more old man Kobe when he's hitting all his shots. It's very methodical. It's very based on like fundamentals, which Ant has great fundamentals. But the way Ant, you watch him and it's like, he looks like young Kobe putting his teeth in on defense. He looks like young Michael Jordan with his athleticism and strength. It's like, it's really striking.
Looks like someone went into the 2K player editor and just chose all of Michael Jordan's animations.
Yeah.
It is just like a very bizarre experience. Like as a T-Wolves fan who has been watching Ant for 4 years now, it's like there have been flashes of this, you know?
Totally.
And it's just like, it seems like now it maybe is just the way he has just fully matured into that player. Well, I don't want to speak too soon, but that's what it feels like right now.
So I mean, Ant's on a crazy run. 33. So he's had one stinker of a game, and he's had 4 just absolutely amazing games. He's had the 33 points, 36 points, 40 points to close out Phoenix, and now 43 points against Denver. In all of these games, he's shooting the ball well. He's shooting good from 3, shooting good from the line. He's actually, his assist total, he's up to like 6 assists per game in the playoffs, which I think is a great number for him to be at. Averaged 2 steals a game in the Phoenix series. And I think the thing with someone like Ant that's really kind of interesting, and I think we'll talk about this in the trends too, is like a player like Kobe in the regular season always had these like really underwhelming field goal percentage numbers because it's like he has every move in the bag, but obviously we've kind of known from NBA history, it's like efficiency usually lies within having a smaller bag that you're just really good at those. You know, if you can just shoot a hook shot at 80%, there's no reason to shoot the fadeaway. But with someone like Ant, I think he has that same thing with Kobe where the playoff defense doesn't really hurt his field goal percentage much because he's already taking such a diversity of tough shots. And like the more versatility you have, I think is more valuable in the playoffs than it is in the regular season.
Totally. And I think a scary thing if you're a Denver fan is you look at this Minnesota box score. Jaden McDaniels didn't score. 0 points. Karl Anthony Towns was okay, but he was in foul trouble for almost all of the game. So that was like a really, I think, quiet 20 points from him. Gobert really ate on the boards, which was really awesome for them. But the number one thing that I look at is Karl Anthony Towns had 1 turnover and Anthony Edwards had 1 turnover. You look at the star duo of the Nuggets, Nikola Jokic had 7 turnovers and Jamal Murray only had 1. But if 8 versus 2 is such a huge swing in your super high usage players, that I think that's something that really needs to be tracked throughout this series. Because really, you look at the team stats, almost everything is even across the board, except even turnovers. And the one area that Minnesota really dominated was rebounding. And this might be a good place to go a little bit more Nuggets centric. But did you have anything to say, James, on the Timberwolves before we kind of pivot to what the Nuggets looked like?
I think one advantage we're seeing, because I think there's been a lot of hubbubaloo about like Durant's out, LeBron's out, Steph's out. And I think I saw the stat that I think of like there's only like 5 starters across the whole playoffs now who is over 30.
This has been something that I really wanted to track.
The age thing, I think with the Timberwolves, because I think the big thing with them is like they're picking up, you know, if Jokic sometimes brings the ball up, obviously not most of the time because he's the center, but like Naz Reid's like, I'm going to pick you up 60 feet. And like he's going to make him work a little bit harder. And I do think for the Timberwolves, this, and you know, the Knicks too, we saw it in the Sixers series, this kind of ability as a younger team to just rev your motor and just go for a lot longer. Because I've always felt like people make way too big a deal about minutes in the NBA. Like I've never understood the like, oh, he played 41 minutes. Like, dude, that's no different than playing 38 minutes on your body. Honestly, I don't think there's any real difference. I don't even think there's a big difference over the course of a month of doing that. But like, these guys are the best in shape of the world. The Timberwolves are all in their athletic primes or pre-primes athletically, so the recovery is going to be easier. It's going to be easier for them to play that way, and I think that's worrisome for the Nuggets. To transition to the Nuggets, weird worry point. I feel like last year the gap between Jokic and everyone else was like gigantic after Butler cooled off. And I feel like this year Jokic has still been the best player, but it's like the gap is so much smaller, and I think that's kind of a worrisome thing for the Nuggets.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the Nuggets and the Timberwolves, and we talked about it in the preview, is they are designed to play against this Nuggets team, the Timberwolves, in such like an aggressive and like pointed way, in that like I feel like especially later in the game, you could feel the waves of big men coming at Jokic, just like over and over again, even though he was able to get Cat was primarily guarding him for pretty much all of the time that he was out on the floor. But like having to transition to Naz Reid, and both Naz Reid and Cat were picking up Jokic for most full court most of the game. And Rudy Gobert just like is a gigantic man. And we've seen that, like, I think Jokic gets a little less effective when he has to bang bodies against like the biggest of big dudes. And he can beat anyone, and he can get that hook shot over anyone. But I think you could see how he was exhausting just a little bit more of that gas that he had in the tank when he was banging against Rudy. And I found a really interesting Jokic Rudy Gobert stat in that Jokic, of course, is at his best when he's rebounding, and rebounding really effectively, either getting second chance opportunities or starting the transition game for the Nuggets. And Jokic has played Rudy in a lot of playoff games at this point. And of Jokic's 18 worst playoff rebounding games, six of those times and 3 of the 5 lowest rebounding games that he's had in the playoffs have come against Rudy Gobert teams. So I think, like, if they can continue to make Jokic's life on the boards harder, that's where the math starts dwindling in the Nuggets, out of the Nuggets' favor. But this was a tie game with 7 minutes left.
It is important to remember, when it is a tie game with 7 minutes left and then just one star player goes off, like sometimes the other star player goes off and the game shifts. So I think this series is going to go long. Yeah,
that's what I was gonna say is that they need to keep a 10-point lead at all times, because Jamal Murray can make those crazy clutch shots. Like, you just don't want to put yourself in a situation where that could happen. And
well, we saw it in this game. Jamal Murray had 0 points going into halftime, and then he gets 17 in the second half, which is like, that's a pretty good second half.
Yeah, I mean, I think we said this earlier in the year. The Timberwolves are like a football team that, like, they have to get to 2nd and 6. They cannot play like 2nd and 10, 3rd and 10. They have to get to like 3rd and 2. But I mean, we'll see. It's going to be fun. I mean,
so you're now feeling like this is going to be a long series?
Yeah,
because you said
I did pick Nuggets in 5.
Nuggets in 5.
I'm still kind of inclined to go Nuggets. I don't think they're going to reverse sweep. I don't see a reverse sweep. Like, my Nuggets in 5 pick was assuming that they drop a Minnesota game. But if I pick Nuggets in 6, that means they'd win in Minnesota. You know what? I'm gonna go with Nuggets in 6. I still like the Nuggets in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, like, they are the champion. Like, as much as you can overreact to what went on, I think there are sustainable things, but also, like, Jamal Murray most of the time is not gonna score 0 points.
Yeah, I feel like also Murray's kind of injured, and I think he's gonna get subtly healthier over the season. I don't think he's gonna have this like progressive beatdown, even though the Timberwolves are a really physical team.
I will say they also made, I think, Jamal Murray's life really, really hard. Obviously, with their one-on-one defenders, they got probably about as good of personnel as you could ask for. And I think Ant really took the Jamal Murray
Assignment,
matchup.
yeah.
Seriously, you could see that from the tip he was chirping the entire game.
I think that's the point of emphasis for all these teams guarding the Nuggets, though, because it kind of felt like that's what the Lakers tried to do in round one, was take away Murray more than anybody else.
Yeah,
and just
but
live with Jokic.
I really liked on the defensive side. They would bring Murray and Jokic into every pick and roll, and they were really just spamming it over and over again, which again plays to the thing of like, we're going to try to tire out the best player in the league and just see what happens and see if Ant can, take us home.
Yeah, I'm sure I guess that's going to be the interesting adjustment to see like what kind of pre-screen switching the Nuggets do on the back end, because like in past seasons when Jokic was a lot even slower laterally, like Malone did a lot of like pre-switching off the ball and stuff like to help Jokic out defensively. So we'll see how much they do that.
I'd also like to see Aaron Gordon, like them make more of a point of him really attacking the boards when he can, which he always does. But I think like it's even more crucial in this series because he can also push in transition and like easy pass to Jokic, who when he has a head of steam, it's about as difficult to stop him as anyone else in the league. But could not be more excited for game 2 of this series.
And game 2 is tonight? Yes, it is, along with Indiana, New York.
Yeah, so we've got a couple of series that we have not put pen to paper predictions on. We can go into them a little bit, and then after that, maybe touch quickly on our.
I think let's rapid fire.
soldiers.
Let's rapid fire what's happened in the past.
Yeah, so since we have spoken, the 76ers Knicks series ended. The Knicks ended the series with an insane, went up huge in the first half, or in the first quarter, then completely
blew
lost
it, yeah.
the lead. And then it was honestly an all-time game going down to about with 30 seconds left. Josh Hart hit an insane 3 that pretty much sealed the game for the Knicks. And so they are now going on to face a Pacers team that was able to beat the Bucks in 6 games. Not your average playoff team in the second round of the Pacers, but I don't know. What do you want to hit on there?
Yeah, I mean, for the Sixers, I got to say, like, hell of a series.
Yeah.
They definitely got just completely destroyed games 1 through 6 on the boards. The Knicks just completely out-physicaled them, out-muscled them. With Embiid, it's tough to know just how much the Bell's palsy in the knee is affecting him, because I've heard at times his vision gets blurry. But I think if, like, I'm a Sixers fan, what worries me is, like, there's, like, 2 possessions at the end of game 6. One where Embiid gets the ball cleanly at the free throw line, which is, like, that's a money shot for Embiid. But he forces up a bad layup. I think he ended up getting fouled, so they didn't get punished for it. But, like, you got to take that. And then there's another play where Maxey draws kind of like a hard hedge, so Embiid gets the ball at the perimeter. He's, like, open, and he's, like, kind of just waiting for Maxey to get the ball back. And it's, like, Maxey's fucking awesome. Maxey played as well as he possibly could that series, but you're the presumptive MVP, before you got hurt. You're scoring. You're such an unbelievable scorer. I think it's just a little disheartening to see him lose a little bit of confidence at the end of that game, especially when Maxey had done so much at that point where it's like, come on, man, like, you got to help Maxey out a little bit. If you're the Knicks, I mean, I don't know how much of that series is going to be very telling going forward. I mean, the crazy thing about that series, the Knicks win by 1 point.
Yeah.
The Knicks are outscored while Brunson's on the court. The Knicks are getting demolished statistically while Embiid's on the court. And you know what's crazy? I don't think any of that is going to translate going forward to this Indiana series.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Knicks are the classic better than the sum of their parts team. And Brunson, you have established yourself as a
absolute
superstar in this league. Like that, this was about as tough of a first round matchup as you can imagine. And I mean, he just delivered in spades. He's leading the league in scoring in the playoffs. From the Sixers perspective, I think, like you said, this series had 1 point different over all 6 games. And to me, it ended up being kind of a tale of 2 stars for the Sixers in the fourth quarter. Maxey was absolutely unbelievable in the playoffs in the fourth quarter. He shot 59% from the field, 60% from 3, and averaged 10 points. And then you look at Embiid, who is their star, is the face of their franchise, 23% from the field, 11% from 3, not even a full rebound was he averaging in the fourth quarter? It's like you can get yourself absolutely hyped about what you saw from Maxey. He surpassed my wildest expectations. I think he was absolutely incredible. I think he's cemented himself as a star, especially against really close to the best personnel as you could hope for to guard him. Despite all that, he did it all. And then Embiid, it was a disappointment in a big way, I would say, because he was great in this series. So I'm not giving you a pass. Like, I saw consistent greatness in the first half of nearly every single game that you played in. And you just, like, it is up to you as a superstar to, if you're not in a perfect place physically, like, I need you to figure out how you can affect the game for the better for your team in the fourth quarter, most of all. And he was not able to do that in this series. And that, I think, is pretty much the book on it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say he didn't affect the game, though, because I think he was by far the most impactful defensive player of the first round.
He did, but it was just once the fourth quarter came, his offensive performance, I think, was just too much to overcome in the fourth quarter of a lot of these games. Turnovers.
But what I'm saying is that the defense never left, though.
He was amazing. He was great in the first half. He was great in the first three quarters. That's why I'm not giving him a pass, because he looked like that MVP.
Yeah, well,
so much of this series.
Yeah, no, I'm not giving him a pass. Again, like, I was really disappointed with the shots he passed up and the shying away from his jump shot, especially his mid-range jump shot. Like, shying away from your three-pointer in a tight game as a big man, okay, I get it. But that
I'm for that, honestly.
That free throw line jump shot, like that, I think he's shooting like over 55% on that shot. Like, he's got to take that shot.
It's like Kevin Durant, prime Kevin Durant.
Yeah, like
from a jump shooting
from a mid range. So that's where I'm more disappointed in him. I guess I'm just pushing back on the notion that he's not making up for it on other areas when it's like
strictly in the fourth quarter. I'm saying it wasn't enough to make up for it. Is all I was saying.
Well, I think for the Sixers, they gotta get a backup big. It's Paul Reed is fun in the regular season, but it's the rim protection. I think when they lose Embiid, it's like the offense falls apart. Even when that's the crazy thing, though, is that's the one thing, though. Their offense completely falls apart with Embiid off, even when Embiid plays bad shooting wise. I think it's the screening, it's the attention grabbing. It's just he's such an offensive booster that they just can't survive. But let's talk the Knicks. I mean, the Knicks are in a really interesting position because I feel like Indiana's not ready for what the Knicks like. The Knicks are used to like a back alley brawl, and the Pacers are used to like open salon door to the rim. So I think this game one is going to be a really interesting clash of styles, especially the way it's reffed.
Yeah, I mean, the Pacers have not been a good rebounding team really throughout this season. The way their math has worked out for them, it's been because of their pace and how many shots they get on goal. They are going to lose the rebounding, and I would imagine the pace battle throughout this. I'm really interested to see how much Tom Thibodeau opens up the Knicks rotation in this series, because he had to keep it really tight in this Sixers series or they were going to lose. And I don't think that's sustainable for them if they have dreams of playing in 4 playoff rounds this year, which it would be a very high bar to clear. But I think you gotta see where you can open up this rotation. Can you get some Precious minutes? Can you get some Alec Burks minutes in this rotation to give, the Jalen Brunsons, the OG Ananobis a little bit more of a time to blow?
I kind of think they're going to be able to get away with it, only because I think this could be a really short series. Mm-hmm. And if it's a short series, like, play them all 47 minutes a game.
Yeah.
Like, I think you'd rather play 4 games of super heavy minutes than like 6 games of lower minutes if you're the Knicks.
That's true. True.
Yeah, I'm really curious how this game's going to be officiated, right? Because that's the one thing I did feel watching Knicks Sixers was, to me, it felt like the contact allowance was on a different level than almost every other series. Like, we're going to talk trends. The free throw rate from the regular season to the postseason is only a 0.5% difference. So it's actually higher in the playoffs.
That's crazy.
So I think that's what's going to be interesting about game one of Indy New York is, like, when the Knicks and the Sixers are playing and both teams are just brawling the whole time, there's way more contact leniency the refs naturally give. But if you're the Pacers and you're playing a more finesse style and the Knicks are playing the super physical style, like usually the physical team wins out in like the contact allowance department. But like you just don't know because Indiana in like round one is playing a very high flying series where, you know, there's a lot less contact allowance. And so like I'm wondering if the Knicks physicality can come back to bite them maybe in these first two games. I don't think it will over the course of the series, but I think it's something to look out for.
Yeah, it's so important for the Knicks to protect home court here. I don't think that can be like stressed enough because like if you give them one game, then you just give them life. But I think, you know, offense is going to be a lot easier to come by for this Knicks team. I've said it a million times. This Pacers team is the worst defensive team I have ever seen win a playoff round. Like they are truly just a turnstile on defense. And so if the Knicks can, you know, lean into their identity, be that rebounding team, be that defensive gritty team, they're going to play so much in transition that maybe they'll be able to, you know, make this 4-game, 5-game series. But, you know, if you let the Pacers get comfortable hitting threes, Rick Carlisle's getting in Jalen Brunson's head because he would never play him when he was the coach of the Mavericks. Who knows?
Who knows?
But yeah, I'm picking Knicks in 5.
I'm going to go Knicks in 4.
There we go. There we go. I'm just like, there's going to be one game where they're just, you know, TJ McConnell hits 6 threes and it's just really annoying. The field house is going crazy.
I think the Pacers are in for a rough awakening right now.
I hope so because I'm riding high on this Knicks team, and I need to see them play against the Celtics. I fucking need to see them play against the Celtics.
Yeah, I guess the way I'm looking at it, I kind of felt like Boston, New York, and Philly were clearly the best 3 teams with the Bucks guys injured. And I just feel like the drop off from those 3 to the next is like almost insurmountable.
Hey,
I probably would have picked Philly in 5 if Philly had won.
I'm with you, bro. I'm right there with you. Okay, so real quick, Sixers off season, off the top of your head, they only have one player under contract. That is Joel Embiid. They also technically have Paul Reed, but because since they didn't make the second round, his contract is non-guaranteed. So they can open up a lot of cap space. They have 4 tradable first-round picks, 4 tradable swaps. What's your first gut reaction? What do they need to do this offseason?
Well, you know, I don't want to spend too much time on it because we do have to hit on Mavs clips too, but get the fuck rid of Tobias Harris. That dude scored 0 points.
Oh, my gosh. And then he takes like a step-back mid-range jumper with the game on the line.
Tobias Harris, incredibly disappointing. Yeah, I mean, him and the guy who looks just like him waving the white flag, it's a trend now. But
there's a spot for you in Phoenix, Tobias.
No, you don't. You don't want Tobias Harris. I have watched a lot of Sixers. That dude is maybe the most underwhelming, disappointing player I've seen in forever. I mean, if they're really good next year, right? The Sixers, maybe they finally break through the ECF or go to the finals. Like, is that the ultimate, like, Tobias Harris might be the worst contract signing of all time, especially in context of not signing Butler?
He'll never be able to walk in Philly ever again.
Yeah.
Never again.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Paul George thing is interesting. I'd be afraid of giving Paul George a 4-year contract unless the thought process is like, all right, we're really going for 2 years and then we'll pay the price for that afterward.
What about LeBron?
LeBron's not going to Philadelphia.
What about LeBron?
I don't think LeBron and Joel Embiid like each other. There was a play in the regular season, I want to say 2-3 years ago, where Embiid blew past his man and tried to do a 2-hand poster, and LeBron just basically shoved him. And ever since then, I've noticed it's been pretty icy between the two of them.
Maxey's a clutch guy, though, right?
Is he?
I think he is.
I just don't see it.
I mean, it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
I needed to put that in your world just for 1 second. Okay, Clippers, Mavs.
Okay, I'm glad it's finally happening. Russell Westbrook. 2 of 9, 0 of 7, 2 of 8, 2 of 11, 2 of 7. Bro, this guy is not an NBA level player anymore, and he hasn't been since he came to the Lakers. I'm sorry, he can't shoot.
Real hoopers know.
This guy can't hit the backboard on half his jump shots. It's crazy to me this guy is still in the league. I'm going to be honest.
Oh, okay, well, you want to talk about another Clippers guy that I don't know is a like NBA level
PJ
player?
Tucker?
PJ Tucker. Wow, Ty Lue, what a move. Really trying to change it up. Starting PJ Tucker in the elimination game when he has played in like 5 games in the last, 4 months?
Yeah, you basically benched him the entire season.
That's crazy. And then you get the classic 2 of 16 outing combined from Paul George and James Harden. I didn't want to see them go out like this, but I can't say I'm surprised. And then it's like, I mean, we'll get into the Mavericks in a second. What the hell do you do if you're the Clippers?
What do you mean?
Well,
for the offseason.
yeah, it's like you have no picks. You have 0 picks. Your next pick, not even like swaps. Your next pick that you have is 2030. That's tough in its own right. But then it's like Paul George is expiring, James Harden is expiring, but you're still pretty much at the salary cap ceiling, and you have no picks. You have to re-sign them.
I know they have a new stadium. They got to blow it up. They're not
For what? You don't have your own draft picks.
I know, but they can do the net. I think the thing is the Nets provided the blueprint for what to do in this situation. You have to blow it up. You have to open up your cap space. You have to take in bad contracts to gain draft capital and work your way from there. I mean, that's just this
I
team
guess
isn't
since
going
they're
anywhere.
an LA team, I'll hear you on it, but it's tough. It's tough.
But I don't really understand. I think keeping this team together is a fool's errand.
But you're gambling on like getting KD and Kyrie level players to just come to your team.
No. The Nets were in a really good rebuild before that happened. They had built up a good young core. They were in a strong position. The reason they were able to get KD and Kyrie is because they had put themselves in a strong position after having 0 assets 5 years prior. I think the Clippers could definitely do that. It seems like the Clippers ownership is pretty good. I listened to the JJ Redick talk about this on the PMT podcast about how he thinks they have like the strongest front office kind of understanding and patience level. And I think like if any team's well equipped to kind of make a rebuild work without the assets, I think it's this Clippers organization. But like, I don't think you can bring Harden back. Like the 2 of 12, I think I saw that stat that Harden broke the record for most like 10 field goal attempts, 2 or less makes. And like, I'm sorry, I've seen this movie every year the last 10 years. I'm like, Hollywood's got to stop. You know, we need some new franchises at this point. I mean, Leonard, he's not healthy.
Yeah.
That's why I've never believed in this Clippers team from the day they made the trade. Was like, I just didn't think Leonard was going to make it. And they signed him long term. Like, they're screwed.
That's the thing. That's the thing. That's why I'm like, you have to bring them back. Because that Nets team was a fun team, but took them like 3-4 years to build that up. And like, let's think about it now. What was their core? It was D'Angelo Russell, Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, Jared Allen. Like, what is that doing realistically if they're not able to get stars to come?
But I think that's the stepping stone team that eventually allowed them to get. I guess that's my point. Is I think if the Clippers could put themselves in that position, that's really not the worst place to be, because it's not just that core; it's that they had acquired a ton of draft capital by absorbing all those contracts.
That's true, but the Clippers, I don't know.
I think
because
the Clippers
you
need to clear
are
their
locked
books.
into Kawhi, it's so much harder to like
Clear the books.
You can't really take on like bad contracts for assets.
But like with the Clippers though, they have so many guys who they could get draft picks for. I think they're in a really strong position to start a rebuild. Sign and trade Paul George, get a draft pick. Maybe sign and trade James Harden, get a second round pick. Norman Powell, get some picks. I think they're in a really good position to load up on picks.
yeah, I think they would be in a better position if they would be able to sign Paul George and James Harden and trade them, next offseason.
I don't know though. If you sign George for 4 years and he's 35, like I don't know about that. Harden's 34 right now. Like
I guess it depends on the contract.
Harden's
you
going to
get
be
him on.
35 years old day one of the next regular season. Like I I don't know. I think re-signing either guy is almost crazy if it's not a signing trade.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think the second apron stuff, it like changes it all. That Nets team was also able to like throw all these like offer sheets at these random players that benefited them.
But that's why I think the Clippers need to get out of the second apron.
I know, but like
Amir Coffey, I think they could get value for that guy. Terrence Mann, they could definitely get value for that guy. Zubac, they could definitely get value for that guy. Like I think they're in a really strong position to trade a lot of the salary, get a lot of draft picks back, and all of a sudden it's like now we have draft capital and we have space to absorb future draft capital. And like, you know what, Kawhi Leonard? You get hurt every year, you're getting paid $50 million. We don't feel sympathetic to you. And they don't owe Kawhi anything. He's done nothing for them. If anything, he screwed them.
Yeah, I mean, he took their money.
He took their money. He's been like the most underwhelming superstar post Raptors, championship.
Yeah, I don't know.
You want to pivot to Mavs?
The Mavs side.
We probably should.
Patrick, if they bring everyone back, like, what's going to happen next year that didn't happen this year?
Yeah, probably nothing. But one of those years of Kawhi's contract is done, and Paul George and James Harden are still relatively. It's a roll of the dice. Your first year in your new building. Of like maybe you get them on 1 year. Can you get Harden on a 1 year deal? Who else is paying Harden? Who's paying Harden?
I don't know.
Right?
I don't know who's paying Harden.
I feel like they have, at least with the Harden negotiations, they have all of the leverage in the world to get a good deal. And then with Paul George, it's like Paul George is still good. And
Paul George is awesome. I just don't want to pay him for 4 years.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, that would end at age 37 for Paul George. Damn, they're old. I don't know. I hate an idea of blowing it up when you have no picks and you're still capped out. Even if you blow up, you got to bring back all those contracts.
Unless they trade them all.
Yeah, but like if you're sending out your $40 million Paul George contract, you're still bringing in $40 million, most likely, unless you're able to trade it to one of these super rare cap space teams that who knows if they want.
But it's not even about the Georges. It's about the Terrence Manns, the Zubac, the $11 million contracts. You could trade those $11 million contracts for expirings or for $8 million contracts and get a pick back. Or I think they're in a really good position to blow it up and start a rebuild.
Yeah, I don't know.
The Mavericks.
The Mavericks, their defense came out to play once again, looking like one of the best defenses in the NBA. I'm a little worried about Luka. Luka has not looked Luka-y to me.
He's but I think hopefully this break gives him a chance to kind of get back to form here. Because they have another day off today.
Yeah.
So I think they're in a good position. I mean, Luka said he wouldn't be playing if it was the regular season, but Luka was pretty awesome the last 2 games. Yeah, OKC Dallas. This is a series we talked about hypothetically a couple times. I still feel pretty good about Dallas, to be honest, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so torn on this series. I wish we could have seen the Thunder play against a higher caliber opponent in the first round. Hypothetically, like the way the Mavs were losing games in this Clippers series was they couldn't stay in front of James Harden and Paul George for a couple games. And the Thunder are way more equipped to take advantage of things like that, especially with a hurt Luka. I think Maxi Kleber came up huge in this series. I don't know if we'll see him for this second round series. And I think he really contributed to Kyrie being able to get to the rim kind of at will. Of course, he can get wherever he needs to on the court, but it depends on how much energy he wants to expend. I'm leaning Mavs in 7 because I think Luka is so much of that guy, and I need to see it from Shea before I can say, like, you got this. But it's a tough one for me to pick. It's a tough one for me to pick for sure.
I'm gonna go Mavs in 6. I think the Mavs are gonna own the boards in this series. Yeah, I mean, Zubac is not as good as Chet, like in a vacuum, but like Chet is very thin. I think Zubac is kind of thick. He's going to give guys like Lively and Gafford a harder time on the boards. I mean, the Mavericks have been one of the best offensive rebounding teams these playoffs, and the Thunder are allowing a lot of offensive rebounds even against the Pelicans without Zion. I mean, it's kind of tough with these small sample sizes. Like right now, it says the Thunder have a 95 defensive rating. Like
they were the best defensive rated team in the first round.
Yeah, I guess I think for both teams are going to have a nightmare guarding Shea and Luka. But I think Luka is just going to be this unsolvable problem for Oklahoma City, where it's just like I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's you throw Lou Dort on him. Lou Dort looked absolutely incredible in this last series guarding Brandon Ingram, who of course is a much different stylistic player.
Because I think the thing that like OKC has over, Pelicans was like, for the Pelicans, it was like they have to win the Jonas minutes, but they weren't, because Chet can kind of drag him around the court, beat him with speed, drag him out to the perimeter. But the Mavs bigs are like way better athletically, way better vertically, horizontally moving. Like I think their bigs are better equipped to handle like Chet in space than I think the Pelicans were. And I don't know. I kind of think Dallas is just it's going to get kind of physical. And I kind of like Dallas in like more of a like heliocentric battle of whose role players hit the shots personally.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it all ends on Luka in this series. I think Luka needs to be a superhero for the Mavs to win this series. I'm willing to bet on it, but that last series that we saw Luka in it did disturb me a little bit, because he's being guarded by Terrence Mann.
Yeah.
For most of that series. 5 of Luka's 14 least efficient playoff games in his career came in the Clippers series.
Yeah.
And you are going to now be guarded by Lou Dort, who is, in my opinion, a way better defender than Terrence Mann. He's way stronger. You're not going to be able to bully ball him. And you're going to have to, it's kind of more, you're going to have to outwit him. You're going to have to be really crafty about how you score. So the Mavericks, I agree with you. I think they do have I think this is a huge PJ Washington series. He needs to get some really, really good minutes against J-Dub. Like I think he needs to basically win that matchup for it to be a easy series for the Mavs. But that's the other guy. I have no idea. I don't really know what to expect from J-Dub.
Yeah, I think J-Dub's going to be. I mean, it's tough because the Mavericks are rangy. They've got good, perimeter defense. But I guess I want to push back on the Lou Dort point. I don't think Lou Dort's going to be much of an obstacle for. If Luka's knee starts feeling better, I don't know. He couldn't guard him at all in the regular season. There's a big height mismatch there. Like, I don't know. I guess that's why I feel better about Dallas's superstar being able to come through, because it's like, who is actually supposed to be guarding Luka here? Because he just couldn't in the regular season.
Yeah,
like,
but
Luka
no one
torched
can.
him.
No one can. It's all about. It's like the Jokic thing that we talked about earlier. It's like, how much can you make this superstar feel you?
No, but I guess that's my point. Is I don't think Luka feels Dort at all.
See, I
just don't think Dort.
It's regular
I think
season,
Luka's going to be able to
though.
get his post ups against him. Like, I don't know what Dort's going to. I guess like Man is rangier. He can kind of contest Luka's jump shots a bit more. Like, I don't know. I don't think the Thunder have a body type guy who's real. I guess if I'm them, I'd probably put J-Dub on Luka.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel great about any matchup against Luka, but I think it's a little noisy, the regular season. You can really zero in a little bit more here. And Lou Dort is a great defender. He's a great defender.
He's just small.
And he's good, but he's good at guarding up. Like we saw the problems that he gave Brandon Ingram, who is way bigger than him.
I don't know. Like in the regular season, they struggled with the Lakers too, and it's kind of like these bigger forwards who are really, really good. So it's not a critique, but it's like it seems like that's the type of guy who's killed this Thunder team all season.
Yeah, I mean, hey, he's gonna kill them. He's Luka Doncic. He's gonna kill them. But I'm interested, especially with the injury, how efficiently can he do it?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the series. Mavs in 7 is my pick. I think that man is going to march into Oklahoma City and silence them in a game 7. But I think it's going to be a close series. Like I'm really high on Shea. I think he is going to feast.
Yeah, I think so too.
And like, if Jalen Williams can have a big series, it could flip the other way really quickly into like a, OKC in 5-6.
I think I'm really curious to see what Kyrie is going to look like, because I guess that depends too. Because I highlighted this, in the middle of the Mavs series or Clippers series was like they're just doubling Luka so high up that it's just putting Kyrie in these 4-on-3s, and it's like I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how you defend the Mavs. Like I don't know what the best strategy. I don't think there's been a good strategy to defend them this whole season. But like that's another thing too, though, is if they kind of play up like that, like Kyrie could have a big series too.
Yeah, the Thunder do have really great options to put on Kyrie.
Yeah,
I will say, like,
I agree with that.
You don't want to tax Shea with it, but like Shea's about.
But like, see, I think that's a good spot for Dort.
Oh yeah, Dort would probably do really well there too. Also off the bench, Cason Wallace, like
I think they have a lot of good options to throw at Kyrie. So I think this does have to be the Luka series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know. We'll see. I don't feel good about picking the Mavs, but it's just like
I feel like we're gonna get a lot of like Shea had 42 points, Luka had 38 points. I feel like we're gonna get a lot of those, and I don't know why I love watching like very crazy heliocentric teams a lot of the time, especially like when the heliocentric guy's a big playmaker. So I think this is going to be a really fun series for me to watch.
Except for James Harden.
Yeah, because James Harden doesn't score.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Used to.
You guys have some best take, worst takes?
Oh, I got some. I got some best take, worst takes.
Well, I guess quickly, do you want to hit in any trends you've noticed?
Oh, I mean, the one overall thing is I sat here in our playoff preview and I said, let's see how home court it like affects these series, because there was a huge feeling, not just here, definitely here, but also just I think in the national media of like these lower seeded teams. This is like the NBA has shifted. The regular season doesn't matter as much. The lower seeded teams, this is their time to kind of take over the playoffs, and that did not come to fruition at all. The home seeded teams, the higher seeded teams, all like really, really showed up and showed out, and I think it's something to take note of. Like the regular season really, really came and said, "Hey, I still matter."
Yeah, I guess That's a great point. I think let's see, though, how this progresses, because the first round is theoretically the absolute best teams matching up against the absolute worst teams.
Yeah, but I mean, that was the whole thing. Like the Suns, the Lakers, everyone was still high on the Warriors, the Sixers.
Who was high on the Warriors?
I was high on a lot of people were high on the Warriors. The freaking Heat, of course, the Heat got injured. That's not the Heat's fault. But it was, especially in the West, it was dominant the way the top 3 seeds took care of business. The top 3 seeds lost one game, and that was to a LeBron James and Anthony Davis led Lakers team. Like that, I think that's a statement.
Yeah, I guess Minnesota, especially if we're going to put ourselves in the shoes of how we felt going into that series with the sweep, really surprising.
Yeah,
but I guess. I mean, I definitely think home court matters, right? I think the one series that shows that more than anything is Cavs Magic. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But with OKC and Denver, I mean, we kind of all thought they were going to win in 5 or 4.
That's true.
But to your point, Knicks Sixers, I mean, the Knicks 3-0 at the Garden?
Yeah.
No, 2-1.
2-1
at the Garden, yeah. But home court, I felt like was big in that series. Maybe that series is different if Philly is the 2-0 team. Even if it is the small point differential, you never know. I mean, so that's a great point. Not that the Knicks struggled in Philly in that series at all, but the Knicks had home court in Philly, so
yeah, exactly. But then I feel like the other big takeaway is like I feel like after this playoffs, we are all going to have to take a long sit and look at our top 10s in the NBA, because the young stars are here. They are they're ready to win. And I don't know. I definitely wasn't ready. It's been the longest stretch in NBA history where we've really had the same, change makers in the playoffs, the same guys running the league. And I feel like this postseason, that is all, like, everything is up in the air.
Yeah, it's. I think without putting too much thought into it, the one guy who's complicating it for me is LeBron. Because I feel like LeBron has risen up my player rankings over the last 4 months.
Me too.
But all the other old guys have fallen. But he's the oldest.
Yeah, but even some of the middling guys of your like top 15, like guys like Donovan Mitchell, guys like Devin Booker, I feel like some of the younger guys are starting to raise above them as well. And we have this kind of like weirdly like silent generation in the NBA right now that like they came into the league during Cavs Warriors where it was just kind of impossible to break through. And then there's been this unprecedented run of parity throughout the NBA. We've never had a different champion so many times, once in the 70s, but we're closing in on the record for most individual champions in a row. And I feel like if I had to bet on it, like Nuggets versus the field right now, I'm hammering the field.
Yeah,
I don't know if you are.
Yeah, I would take the field. I mean, the Nuggets or the field, I would take the field. Yeah, I would take the Nuggets over any other individual team, but I would definitely take the field over the Nuggets.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that's a great observation. Yeah, I think that is a really interesting observation I didn't thought of, is like it's not just the Paul George, Harden, Durant generation. It's also the like late 20s guys outside of Jokic.
Yeah, like you can lump Karl Anthony Towns in there, even Jason Tatum, who has had so much success, but still kind of had to pay the piper of these like GOATs all the way through what has been Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown's prime.
Is Luka also in this conversation?
No, I'd say he's under 25, yeah?
Right. I think he's 25 on the dot, something like that.
No, Luka's firmly in the young guy camp for me.
He's like, at least age-wise, he's like right on,
I
think right
he's
at the
25.
end
He's
of
a
that
fresh
group.
25, yeah.
But when I think about like Shea probably wants, like I think about Shea and like these other young stars, like to me they almost look like they want it more than Luka does.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I think
Shea and Luka are the same draft class.
Same age, yeah.
Right.
So that's like, I feel like it's not thought of in that way because Luka has such a high profile.
Yeah.
But like Embiid is in that conversation.
How old is Brunson?
Brunson's a bit younger. I think.
Brunson is in
Well, he
that
got
same
drafted as an
draft class
older,
as
yeah.
well, but I think he was a 4-year college
Yeah, Brunson.
guy.
Okay.
Brunson was older, so Jalen Brunson is 27.
But also, Jalen Brunson doesn't have the miles of a lot of those other guys who
Right.
were dependent on day one. So I guess there's that going for it.
Yeah, I will say on the Luka thing though, the knee though, it's kind of tough to judge guys with the injuries.
That's true.
On the wanting it factor. Yeah, so I think definitely my trend is like, and it's the same trend every year. It's contact allowance, it's pace of play. It's like two things that always seem to hold true every year's playoffs, because it's kind of funny with the regular season having that shift in officiating, even though most of the season was pre-shift. A lot of these like statistical indicators are pretty similar. Like free throw rates the same, offensive rebounding rates are similar. Like teams aren't overly prioritizing that. One thing, obviously, points per possession is down by like 4. So that goes back to contact allowance. But I'm wondering in this new era where the super team era has kind of died, and I'm looking at teams like Mavericks or the Knicks, where is the heliocentric star player build like potentially a little bit more potent in this era than it was in the previous era?
That is a very interesting proposition. Because I have not thought about it.
It kind of felt like when LeBron was doing his heliocentric thing in the very, very beginning, it was like, this doesn't work against the big 3 Celtics. And then when, the Harden was doing it on the Rockets, it was like, this is a really good team. They're in the 60s. Clearly, this is a team that can win a championship. in some league conditions, but not in a league condition where the other team has like 5 all-stars. But now that we're in this era where it's like, I think the most star-studded team I'd say is the Celtics. Like, maybe it doesn't work against them. We'll see when the Knicks play them, because the Knicks are doing their impression of the 0-1 Sixers right now. But like, is this maybe a new era of somewhat heliocentric basketball? I know the Nuggets just won. They don't quite play that way, but
I would push back on that a little bit, just to say that, like, I think the answer to like that early LeBron team that made the finals in like the 0-1 Sixers is they were heliocentric, but they didn't have depth.
Yeah.
And you look at this Knicks team and you look at this Mavericks team, two pretty heliocentric teams, but very, very deep, super like reliable, young, playable guys all the way down their playoff rotation. But maybe like, especially with the second apron, the new CBA, like maybe it's like a happy medium of like, you need to have that heliocentric star because we can't afford to have multiple stars, but also where that money goes is just like, you need to have 8-9 guys in a pinch that can maybe get some playoff minutes.
yeah. I don't know if it's going to be a trend, but I think it's something to look out for, where I think that team build has a more legitimate shot to win the finals in a league where you're not running into super, super stacked teams. And I mean, even that 0-1 Sixers team, it's like they get all the way to the finals, but then they play Shaq and Kobe.
Yeah. Not to mention, I mean, yeah, that 0-1 team was
Pretty good.
Such a beast.
Those Lakers teams were pretty good. Hot take. Worst take.
Yeah. No, that's best take of the week. Should we go in best take, worst take?
Yeah.
All right, where do you want to start?
I think we have to start with Nick Wright.
Nick Wright, what did Nick Wright have?
Did you see him eviscerate Patrick Beverley?
Ooh, I did see that.
Okay, so for those of you who missed this,
that.
Nick Wright basically did, he put both Drake and Kendrick to shame with the best 3-minute track of the week.
Track
where
of the
he
week.
absolutely eviscerated Beverly from everything from fake chains to bad attitude to poor play to whatever criticism you could lob at this guy, he threw it at him. So I feel like I have to give that best take.
Oh, that is, I totally forgot about that. So much has gone on in this last week that I'm like, there's just so many takes to parse from. I love that. I would say that might be the best take of the week. Also,
wait.
Bev.
Another great quote. Can I throw this? ESPN was cooking this week.
Yeah.
Or I guess Nick Wright's not ESPN, but Kendrick Perkins, a guy who's usually a worst take candidate. This was too funny. It has to be repeated. Tobias Harris, let him walk. I mean, damn. If they asked him if they wanted something from Chick-fil-A before the game, the team told him yes, he'd come back with a bag full of napkins and straws.
That is incredible. My best take was also kind of a joke. It was Jokic. He was asked after game one, what's the adjustment that you can make to them rotating Rudy Gobert, Cat, and Naz Reid on you? And he said, to duplicate a clone of myself. And like, yeah, Jokic, I think that would work pretty well if you just had a clone. He's really leaning into the Gru Despicable Me thing, which I appreciate. But yeah, that Pat Bev, what a fucking asshole.
Yeah,
like,
what a dick.
He sucks. He sucks so bad. I hope he is not in the NBA anymore. And the thing with the reporter, like, do you follow my podcast? Like, fuck
Apparently
you.
he's been doing that all season too.
That's
This is the first time we're all
crazy.
hearing about it.
It's just so disrespectful. And for what? Like, what right do you have to be so disrespectful to people?
Yeah, I don't know. So miraculously, I feel like the takes have been pretty good this week. I don't know if I have a bad take. So you know what?
Oh, I've got some.
Well, I'm going to nominate myself
Okay.
for digging my heels in and saying the Sixers are going to win, despite, the Knicks continuing to pound over and over again. With every Josh Hart offensive rebound, my soul hurt a little bit more. But, I'm going to give myself worst take of the week.
I appreciate that. But I feel like you were based in some facts. It was a really close series, and I've got some takes that I think might take you off of that. My first take it goes to my dear president, Suns owner Matt Ishbia, who was saying in a interview, which I brought up multiple times last episode, we're not in a good position. We're in a great position. No, we are not, Matt Ishbia. That is an insane thing to say. So that's one candidate that I have. And then another candidate that I have goes to ESPN's Bobby Marks, who said, Tyrese Maxey is the face of the Philadelphia 76ers. I think he's the face of the franchise. I don't think it's Joel Embiid. I think Maxey is more reliable. That's fucking crazy. That's fucking crazy. Joel Embiid won the MVP last season. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, also, I know plus minus isn't everything, but I think the Sixers won the Embiid minutes in all but game 6.
No. Oh, yeah. You want to hear something else that I didn't bring up? In those fourth quarter minutes where Maxey was so good and Embiid sucked, Maxey was a minus 2.5 and Embiid was just a 0. So it was neutral.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely one thing in this playoffs. I've noticed this in a lot of series. I feel like a lot of guys who are playing poorly on offense but are playing so good on defense, and I feel like we just kind of all suck at quantifying that at times. But yeah, no, I mean, that's a horrible take.
Right? Should we give it to Bobby Marks today?
What was the other one again? Sorry.
It was Matt Ishbia saying we're not in a good
No,
position.
it's
We're in a
Ishbia.
great position. Okay.
It's Ishbia.
I'm with it. I'm
right,
with
Max? It's Ishbia, right?
Yeah.
You know, at least like on the heels of Maxey fucking the miraculous Game 5 win and Maxey kind of being the go-to guy at the end of Game 6 and Embiid shying away, I'm very down to give that to Ishbia.
Okay, well, I'm up for it as well. So Matt Ishbia, congratulations. You have the worst take of the week. Yep. You're in a great position, not a good position, buddy.
Well, thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Foul Trouble Podcast. We will catch you on Thursday. See you then. Peace.